They thought accusing a quiet black girl would be easy, just call the cops, play the victim, and watch her life fall apart in front of the entire school. But in a world built on lies and privilege, these bullies made one fatal mistake. They targeted the daughter of a federal judge. 5 minutes after officers slammed her against the lockers, her mother walked in like a storm with a badge-breaking smile, and careers started collapsing faster than their cheap stories. The morning bell hadn't even finished echoing through Willow Ridge High when the storm began brewing, quiet at first, like pressure building behind a closed door. Naomi Carter stepped through the gates, with her backpack pulled tight to her shoulders, headphones in, eyes low, hoping today would be one of the rare days she could pass through school unseen. But peace isn't something a black girl at Willow Ridge gets to keep for long. Brandon Cole spotted her instantly. He stood with his crew, 3 boys in varsity jackets, arms crossed, confidence swollen with privilege. The hallway was crowded, noisy, but somehow the space around them felt staged, as if everyone else instinctively gave the bullies room to perform. Brandon pushed off the locker with a smile that was too bright, too rehearsed, like a salesman selling poison. "Well, well, if it isn't Naomi the klepto," he announced loudly. Naomi froze for a beat, pulling her headphones down. "What are you even talking about?" she asked, her voice steady but soft. Brandon didn't give her a second to breathe. He pulled a wallet from his pocket, sleek, expensive, monogrammed, and tossed it at her feet. "Oops," he said dramatically. "Looks like you dropped something." The wallet skidded across the floor and landed against Naomi's shoe. Before she could react, Brandon cupped his hands around his mouth and shouted, "She stole my wallet!" The words hit the hallway like a spark thrown into gasoline. Students turned. Some whispered, others pulled out their phones because at Willow Ridge, no scandal goes undocumented. Naomi immediately shook her head. "I didn't touch your stuff." "Stop lying." But Brandon amplified his performance. "She bumped into me this morning. My wallet was missing right after, and now, surprise, it's on her." His friends chorused their fake outrage, backing him up like trained background actors. "Yeah, I saw her near his locker. She always looks suspicious. She's been acting weird for weeks. None of it was true. But lies are loud, and crowds love a villain they can point to." Naomi crouched to pick up the wallet, not to keep it, but to throw it back. Brandon pounced before she even stood up straight. "Look, she's grabbing it again," he shouted. A wave of judgment rippled through the hallway. A white girl near the lockers whispered, "Typical." Another murmured, "Someone should report her." Naomi's throat tightened. Her hands trembled. She tried to speak louder. "I'm telling you I didn't take anything. He threw it at me." But her voice drowned beneath Brandon's theatrics. He stepped closer, invading her space, eyes glinting with the thrill of cruelty. "You want another chance to steal from me, huh?" he hissed under his breath, just loud enough that only she could hear the venom. His crew tightened the circle around her. It wasn't a fight, but it felt like one. A hunt disguised as punishment. Naomi was trapped, surrounded by sneers and stares sharp enough to cut through skin. Her heartbeat slammed against her ribs as dozens of eyes pinned her down like she was already guilty. Brandon raised his phone subtly, pretending to check notifications, when in reality, he was ensuring the small black camera clipped onto his sleeve had her in frame. Every expression, every breath she took, every move she made would be twisted to fit the story he was about to tell. Brandon had planted that camera earlier that morning. He wasn't improvising, he was filming a setup. A lie, recorded well enough, becomes a weapon. And Brandon always aimed to kill reputations, not just bruise them. Naomi felt panic rising, but she didn't know yet that the worst part wasn't the crowd, or the lies, or the humiliation. The worst part was that Brandon wasn't finished. A single lie can become a death sentence for a black child. And Brandon wasn't stopping here. He was only getting started. The second-floor hallway at Willow Ridge always felt colder, quieter, like an observation deck where students watched drama unfold below. But today, the disaster traveled upward, carried by Brandon's arrogance and the crowd's hunger for chaos. Naomi walked faster, hoping to put distance between herself and the lies suffocating her downstairs. She kept her eyes on the floor, praying the shame clinging to her skin wouldn't follow her here. But predators always follow. Brandon and his crew rushed past her, sprinting toward her locker as if they'd just discovered buried treasure. The thud of their shoes echoed through the hall. Naomi slowed, confused, and then dread punched her chest when she heard Brandon shout, "I found my wallet in her locker." His voice ricocheted through the corridor like a gunshot. Heads snapped toward him. Students poked out of classroom doors. Teachers glanced over but hesitated in the way adults often do when a black student is involved and a white student is yelling. Naomi froze. "What? No, that's not true. I didn't." Brandon yanked her locker open dramatically, as if revealing evidence in a courtroom. The wallet lay on top of her books, exactly where he'd placed it minutes earlier while the hallway was empty. He smirked just enough for Naomi to notice. "Wow," he said, loud enough to gather even more bodies around them. Caught red-handed. His friends chimed in like a chorus of bad actors. "Dude, that's definitely her locker. I told you she stole it. She's been acting sketchy since day one." Naomi felt the walls closing in. "I swear, that wasn't in there. I didn't touch it, Brandon. Stop lying." But Brandon wasn't lying to convince her. He was lying to convince everyone else. And worse, he was recording it. The tiny black camera clipped to his sleeve glowed faintly as it captured every manipulated angle. Brandon's righteous outrage, Naomi's panic, the stunned crowd, the open locker. Optics over truth. Perception over reality. Accusation over evidence. He knew exactly what he was doing. Brandon lifted his phone and started typing with smug precision. Seconds later, a notification ping echoed through the hallway, then another, then dozens. Students pulled out their phones, eyes widening. Brandon had just posted, "Thief exposed. Video coming soon. Number Klepto Naomi." Naomi felt the ground tilt beneath her feet. Her breath shortened. Her ears rang. She reached toward Brandon. Desperate. "Please, stop this. You know I didn't steal anything. Why are you doing this?" Brandon stepped back as if she were contagious. "Don't touch me," he said dramatically. "You've taken enough." His friends snickered. A girl recorded the whole thing, whispering, "This is insane. But I mean, the proof is right there." Another mumbled, "I always knew she was trouble." And another, "I bet the schools suspend her." Naomi's heart hammered so hard she thought it might burst. Her fingers trembled as she reached for the wallet, only for Brandon to shove her hand away. "I'll let the cops deal with you," he spat. Naomi's stomach twisted. "Cops? For a wallet you know I didn't touch?" But Brandon didn't respond. He didn't need to. The crowd answered for him with their silence, their stares, their quiet judgment. Drama swelled. The pressure was unbearable, whispers growing, accusations multiplying, fear suffocating Naomi from every direction. Her voice cracked. "You guys, please, this isn't real. He's framing me." But truth spoken softly will always be swallowed by a loud lie. And Brandon's lie was about to get louder. Brandon uploaded a carefully edited clip cutting out his setup, highlighting Naomi's panic, zooming in on the wallet in her locker, and posted it to the school's private social media channel. Within minutes, it began spreading like wildfire. Comments flooded in. "She's done. Expel her. Lock her up." Knew she was trouble. Naomi felt her world collapsing in real time. A small lie turned into a hurricane in minutes. But the storm was only beginning because the police were on their way. The boys' restroom on the second floor was usually a dead zone before first period, echoing, fluorescent lit, and reeking faintly of cheap cologne and floor cleaner. But today, it pulsed with excitement. Brandon and his crew piled in, slamming the door shut behind them like criminals celebrating their first big heist. Brandon leaned over the sink, adrenaline buzzing under his skin. His friends circled him, hyped, whispering through laughter, "Dude, post the video again." "I wait. She's freaking out downstairs. Everyone's talking about it. This is going viral so fast." But Brandon raised a hand, silencing them. "No," he said, eyes gleaming. "We're taking this all the way." He pulled out his phone, took a slow breath, then switched on the theatrics. 3 rings. A click. A voice. 911. "What's your emergency?" And Brandon began his performance. "Hi. Yes, please. You need to come fast," he stammered, forcing a quiver into his voice. "There's a black girl, she's really aggressive, and she stole my wallet and she's trying to attack people." His friends had to bite their fists to keep from laughing out loud. Brandon continued, layering fear with calculated racism. "She's yelling, pushing people. She said she'd hurt me if I told anyone." Total fiction. But the dispatcher didn't know that. Those words, black, aggressive, stole, attack, hit every trigger the system was already trained to overreact to. On the other end, the dispatcher's tone sharpened. "Is anyone in physical danger right now?" Brandon widened his eyes dramatically, even though no one could see him. "Yes, she's huge, she looks dangerous. I'm scared, she's Snap," his friends snorted, muffling laughter against the stall doors. One of them whispered, "Bro, you're evil. Officers are being dispatched." The dispatcher responded quickly, "Stay where you are. We're classifying this as a priority call." Brandon muted his phone and turned to the group, grinning like a wolf. They bought it. The restroom exploded into laughter. They laughed at Naomi's fear. They laughed at the chaos they had created. They laughed because they knew the system would believe them over her. This wasn't just bullying anymore. This was weaponized prejudice, a deliberate exploitation of a system already tipped against black children. Brandon pressed unmute, continuing the performance. "Yes, please hurry," he said softly, pushing fake tremors into his voice. "She's acting crazy. I don't know what she'll do. Officers are en route." And with that, the lie was officially logged into police dispatch. The boys high-fived. One mimicked sirens. Another bragged, "Dude, she's done." Like actually done. But in the last stall, behind a chipped gray door, someone else was listening. Liam Brooks, quiet, observant, invisible to the social food chain, and unlucky enough to be in the restroom when the show began. He hadn't meant to eavesdrop, but the minute he heard Naomi's name, he froze. And when Brandon weaponized the word black, Liam pulled out his phone with shaking hands. He recorded everything, every racist exaggeration, every fake tremble, every piece of the lie. The boys didn't know he was there, and Liam didn't breathe until the call ended. When Brandon hung up triumphantly, the group roared again. "They're sending real cops? No way. This is insane. She's gonna get dragged out in cuffs. Dude, you should win an Oscar for that performance." Brandon straightened his jacket like a villain preparing for the next act. "Let's go downstairs," he said. "Wouldn't want to miss the show." They burst out of the restroom, leaving behind an echo of cruel laughter. When the door swung shut, Liam finally exhaled the breath he'd been holding. He clutched his phone to his chest, heart pounding. He had the truth. But truth is dangerous, especially when it threatens people who don't want to be exposed. Still, he whispered to himself, "I can't let her go down for something she didn't do." Liam had captured the entire 911 setup, and that recording would change everything. He slipped out quietly, unnoticed, blending into the crowd as the first faint wail of police sirens drifted toward the school. They thought no one saw. But truth always has eyes. And now, police were storming into Willow Ridge High with unnecessary aggression. The main hallway of Willow Ridge High had never been silent. Never. It was always buzzing, chattering, stomping, humming with the chaotic rhythm of teenage life. But when 2 officers burst through the front doors, the building seemed to inhale sharply and hold its breath. Officer Hale and Officer Turner didn't walk. They stormed. Heavy boots, hands already hovering near their belts, eyes scanning the crowd with the sharpness of men expecting a threat, and with Brandon's fabricated story in their heads, they thought they knew exactly where the threat was. Naomi stood near the lockers, hugging her books, trying to keep it together as whispers and stares wrapped around her like a noose. She still hadn't fully recovered from the chaos upstairs. Her pulse hadn't slowed. Her chest still felt tight. She didn't even notice the officers until she heard, "Hey, you stop right there." Her head jerked up too fast, too startled, and Officer Hale surged toward her like a battering ram. "Wait, what?" She didn't get to finish. Hale grabbed her wrist so hard her fingers went numb. He spun her around and slammed her against the cold metal locker with a force that rattled the row of doors. A collective gasp rippled down the hallway. Officer Turner stepped in, hands already on Naomi's other arm, twisting it behind her back. "Stop resisting," Hale barked. I'm not resisting! I didn't do anything!" Naomi cried out, pain stabbing up her shoulder. Students watched, frozen, eyes wide, some recording, none speaking, and behind them, leaning casually against a wall, grinning like he'd paid for front-row tickets, was Brandon. He whispered to his friends, loud enough for Naomi to hear the cruelty. "Told you she'd freak out when the cops showed up. She looks guilty as hell. This is the best day ever." Naomi clenched her jaw to keep from sobbing. "This is a mistake. I didn't steal anything." He framed. "Quiet," Turner snapped, tightening his grip until she winced. "You match the description. Aggressive. Stole property. Threatened a student." "I didn't." Her voice cracked, swallowed by the dread that seized her lungs. Her vision blurred. No one came to help. A black girl, pinned by 2 white officers in a crowded hallway. Every student knew the rule. Interfere, and you might be next. Drama thickened in the air like smoke. Officer Hale pressed Naomi harder into the locker, forcing her cheek against the metal. "Maybe jail will teach you a lesson," he muttered. Naomi shook her head violently, tears slipping down her cheeks. Turner reached for his cuffs, and then her phone slipped from her back pocket. It hit the floor with a sharp crack. The screen lit up, bright, startling, impossible to ignore. 3 words glowed on the screen. "Mom Judge Evelyn Carter." A hush fell over the hallway, big enough to swallow sound itself. Every student turned toward the glowing phone like it was a bomb. Even Hale hesitated, just for a second. Turner's hand froze above his cuffs, because Judge Evelyn Carter wasn't just a name. It was a warning. It was authority, power, consequence. A woman known across the city for dismantling police misconduct cases brick by brick. And now her daughter was pinned to a locker like a criminal. Brandon's smirk twitched. His friends exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, "Dude, that's her mom?" Naomi, breathing hard, managed to choke out, please let me call her. Just one call." Hale's jaw tightened. He knew the procedure. He also knew the risk. Turner swallowed. "Let her make the call," he muttered under his breath. Hale shot him a glare, but loosened his grip just enough for Naomi to turn slightly. She looked down at her phone on the floor. The screen, still glowing like fate itself, had decided to intervene. Naomi wasn't just another black girl being wrongfully targeted. She was the daughter of a federal judge, and these officers had no idea what storm they had just triggered. They had no clue whose child they were laying hands on. Naomi was granted a single phone call, and everything was about to change. The cuffs around Naomi's wrists were cold, too cold. They bit into her skin every time she shifted, leaving thin red marks blooming across her wrists. Officer Hale kept one hand pressed against her upper arm, the other resting on his belt, as if she could sprint away at any moment. Officer Turner stood in front of her, trying to mask the unease creeping into his expression after seeing the name glowing on her fallen phone. The hallway had become a tunnel of whispers. Students lined the walls, phones out, capturing every second. Some recorded out of shock, some out of fear, but a few, like Brandon, recorded out of pure entertainment. He leaned against the lockers, arms folded, wearing the smugness of a villain who thought he had already won. "Go on," he taunted softly, just loud enough for Naomi to hear. "Call Mommy. Maybe she'll bail you out." Naomi's breath trembled. The humiliation, the pain in her shoulders, the burning stares, everything crashed into her at once, and she felt tears gathering in her eyes. Officer Turner picked up her phone from the floor. hesitated briefly at the sight of the caller ID, then placed it in Naomi's cuffed hands. "You get one call," he muttered. Naomi swallowed hard and pressed the green button. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then a click. Breathing. A silence sharp enough to cut the air. "Mom," Naomi's voice cracked. "Mom, they arrested me." The hallway froze again. The silence on the other end wasn't normal silence. It was the silence of a storm forming. A silence filled with calculation, fury, and a terrifying calm. Then Judge Evelyn Carter's voice cut through the phone like the edge of a blade. "Naomi, stop talking. Listen to me carefully." Naomi nodded, even though her mother couldn't see her. "Do not move. Do not say another word, and do not let anyone put their hands on you again." A pause. Then, colder, "No one touches my daughter." Both officers stiffened. Officer Hale's fingers twitched on Naomi's arm. Officer Turner straightened his back, throat tightening. They recognized the voice instantly, the judge known for dismantling corrupt cases, the judge who'd previously called out Hale's unit for misconduct, the judge who could end careers in a single ruling. Hale's jaw locked. Turner looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Naomi whispered, "Mom." They said I matched the description. But Brandon lied. Evelyn's voice sliced in. "Naomi, baby, I need you to breathe. I'm already handling it." The calm in her voice wasn't comforting. It was lethal. Brandon stepped closer, trying to keep up his arrogance. "So what? She threaten us? She's not." Evelyn's voice erupted through the speaker, loud enough for the nearest students to hear. "Put someone else on the phone, preferably someone with a brain." A ripple of gasps shot through the hallway. Officer Turner flinched. Officer Hale exhaled sharply through his nose. Brandon's smirk faltered. Naomi looked at the officers, tears streaking her face. "She wants one of you." Hale reluctantly took the phone. "This is Officer Hale." The hallway was so quiet that everyone could hear the rapid-fire words blasting through the speaker. "Officer Hale, this is Judge Evelyn Carter. You have unlawfully detained a minor without confirming evidence, without probable cause, and without following proper protocol. If one more hair on my daughter's head is disturbed, I will personally see to it that both of you stand before the disciplinary board by sundown." Hale swallowed, hard. Evelyn's voice cut deeper. "And before you try to justify your behavior, know this. I have already notified the Office of Police Oversight. They have received a full report, including your badge numbers." Evelyn had already sent a rapid response alert to the city's Police Oversight Bureau. The system was in motion, a machine far bigger than Brandon's lies. Turner's face drained of color. Hale's grip loosened on Naomi's arm. The balance of power shifted in real time. Brandon scoffed, trying to salvage the moment. "She's bluffing. She can't." But Naomi lifted her head, eyes burning through her tears. "My mom doesn't bluff." The hallway exhaled fear for some, relief for others. The officers stepped back instinctively, as if distance could undo the damage. From the phone, Judge Evelyn said one last thing. "I'll be there in 3 minutes." When a judge gets angry, the entire system trembles. And Judge Evelyn Carter was already moving. The parking lot of Willow Ridge High had never felt so small. A black SUV rolled in with a slow, predatory glide, sleek, polished, and unmistakably expensive. It didn't park. It claimed space. The engine cut off with a final growl, and a door swung open. Judge Evelyn Carter stepped out, and the world seemed to hold its breath. She wasn't just a mother arriving at school. She was a storm in human form. Every step she took toward the entrance radiated power, calm, controlled, but dangerous in its restraint. Her heels clicked sharply against the pavement, like the ticking countdown of a bomb. Officer Hale and Officer Turner went rigid as statues the moment they saw her. Hale instinctively straightened his uniform, as if fabric could hide guilt. Turner looked like he might be sick. Principal Walsh jogged toward her, sweating through his shirt despite the mild weather. "Judge Carter, this is all a misunderstanding." Evelyn didn't even look at him. "Where is my daughter?" she demanded, her voice slow, deliberate, and cold enough to frost glass. Walsh swallowed. She's inside with the officers. We're working on— You are not working on anything, Evelyn said sharply. You are waiting for me to clean up a mess your staff allowed to spiral. Her eyes locked onto Hale and Turner with surgical precision. You two, she said. Explain why my child was forcibly detained without probable cause. Officer Hale stammered. Ma'am, we received a 911 call reporting— Who made the call? She cut in. Hale blinked. A student, Brandon Cole. Evelyn turned slowly, eyes landing on Brandon standing behind the crowd, attempting to look small and innocent. The sight might have fooled a less experienced adult, but Evelyn was a woman who spent her days dismantling lies for a living. Brandon's throat bobbed. She studied him the way a hawk studies a shaking mouse. You, she said, calmly, come forward. Brandon stepped forward reluctantly, hands in his pockets, fake innocence plastered all over his face. I just called because I thought she was stealing. You thought? Evelyn repeated, voice sharp as snapped bone. Or you orchestrated an incident so detailed that 2 armed officers stormed into a school to grab a minor. Brandon faltered. I didn't orchestrate anything, she had my wallet. Evelyn moved closer. She had your wallet because you placed it in her locker. Try again. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Brandon's face burned red. How? How would you even know that? Because liars always make the same mistake, Evelyn said. They assume no one saw them. Drama surged, thick, electric, pulsing. She turned back to the officers. Where is your body cam footage? Officer Turner froze. Ma'am, we didn't activate our cameras before detaining her. Evelyn raised an eyebrow. You violated your own department's protocol. The tension snapped tight, like a pulled wire. Students whispered. Phones recorded. Even the wind seemed to hush. Evelyn crossed her arms. I will review every second of evidence. Show me what you do have. Hale looked helplessly at Turner. Turner looked helplessly at Walsh. Walsh tried to gesture vaguely toward the school building. And then, a voice rose from the crowd. I have something. Everyone turned. Liam Brooks stepped out from between 2 lockers, clutching his phone so tightly his knuckles were white. He took a deep breath. I recorded the entire 911 call, he said, voice shaking but determined. All of it. He lied. He made it up. Every word. Brandon's jaw dropped, his friends pale as snow. Evelyn turned to Liam. Her expression still cold, but for the first time since she arrived, there was a flicker of something else. Approval. Bring it here, she said. Her tone softened only slightly. You've done the right thing. Liam stepped forward, playing the recording. Brandon's fake panic, his racist exaggerations, his friends laughing. Every lie laid bare in brutal clarity. The officers' faces drained of color. A truth like this didn't just expose misconduct, it detonated it. The entire fabricated narrative, every second of it had been recorded, preserved, and now delivered straight into the hands of the one woman capable of destroying the perpetrators legally and professionally. Now the truth had a voice, and that voice carried consequences. But this was only the beginning. The emergency conference room at Willow Ridge High felt like a pressure chamber. The walls were lined with outdated achievement plaques, but today, none of them mattered. The long wooden table in the center hosted a cast of trembling administrators, rigid police officers, shaken students, and one woman whose presence swallowed the room whole. Judge Evelyn Carter stood at the head of the table, posture straight, expression unreadable but dangerous. Beside her sat Naomi, hands clasped tightly in her lap, still shaken from the arrest. Liam hovered near the corner, clutching his phone like a lifeline. Brandon and his friends slumped in their seats, pale and restless. Officer Hale and Officer Turner stood stiffly against the wall like men on trial. Principal Walsh cleared his throat, voice trembling. We are convening this urgent meeting to review the incident involving— Save the formalities. Evelyn cut in. Play every piece of evidence you have, now. Walsh swallowed and nodded at the IT aide, who fumbled with the projector. The screen flickered to life. Brandon sensed the moment slipping. He jumped to his feet, Wait before that. I should explain what happened. Naomi was acting suspicious, and I saw her near my locker. Then, my wallet went missing, and his voice was the same tone he used in his staged videos. Polished lies wrapped in fake concern. And you have proof of that? Evelyn asked, eyes fixed on him like a predator evaluating prey. Yes, Brandon insisted. I recorded when we found the wallet in her locker, and then let's see your recording first, Evelyn said coolly. Brandon hesitated. He hadn't expected that. But with the room staring at him, he had no choice. He slid his phone across the table. The IT aide mirrored it onto the screen. The edited video played. The wallet in Naomi's locker. Naomi panicking. Brandon shouting accusations. Naomi's shaky denials spliced together to make her look guilty. Cut to remove every incriminating detail of his setup. When the clip ended, the room was silent. Evelyn didn't blink. That clip is edited badly. Brandon opened his mouth, but she raised a hand, silencing him instantly. Now, she said, turning to the aide, play the real recording. Liam stepped forward, voice shaking but determined. I sent it to your email, Principal Walsh. Walsh nodded nervously and pulled up the file. When it opened, the room collectively leaned forward. The unedited footage began. Brandon laughing as he placed his wallet inside Naomi's locker. His friends whispering about the setup. Then the boys rushing to discover the wallet. Brandon rehearsing his lines for the camera. The staged panic. The fake outrage. The entire 911 call complete with racist language and mock fear. The room erupted. Walsh pressed a hand to his forehead, devastated. Officer Turner closed his eyes, knowing their arrest now looked indefensible. Naomi stared at the floor, jaw trembling. Hale shifted uncomfortably, sweat glistening at his temple. Brandon's face drained of all color. That's taken out of context, he stammered, but his friends immediately turned on him. It was his idea, one blurted. He told us to go along with it. He said he wanted to ruin her. They tripped over each other, trying to escape blame, pointing fingers in every direction except inward. Evelyn watched the chaos with chilling stillness. Then Liam lifted his phone again. There's one more recording, he said quietly. What more could there be? Walsh asked, defeated. A new audio clip filled the room. Brandon's voice clear, cruel, unfiltered. I want that black girl gone. I want her out of this school. I don't care how we'll make them believe she's dangerous. The room froze. Hale looked like he wanted to disappear. Turner stared at the carpet, unable to lift his head. Even Brandon's friends recoiled, as if the words were poison. Evelyn leaned forward slightly, voice low and lethal. You didn't just frame my daughter. You weaponized race. You incited a false police emergency. And you put her life at risk. Brandon's breathing became erratic. He knew this wasn't school trouble anymore. This was legal trouble, criminal trouble. The audio didn't just prove the setup. It revealed Brandon's intent to racially target and expel Naomi by any means necessary. Evelyn spoke calmly, but her words burned the room to ash. Truth doesn't just expose lies. It incinerates them. Truth doesn't just surface. It burns everything it touches. Our Stewart. And the police had no idea what was about to hit them next. The emergency conference room had gone from tense to suffocating. Brandon's lies were exposed. The students were trembling, and the administrators were drowning in panic. But Judge Evelyn Carter wasn't finished, not even close. She slowly turned her gaze from the now disgraced Brandon toward the two officers standing against the wall. Officer Hale and Officer Turner stiffened instantly, like soldiers awaiting sentencing. Now, Evelyn said, voice low but deadly clear, let's address the two men who placed my daughter in handcuffs. Hale cleared his throat, trying to gather authority he no longer possessed. Ma'am, Judge Carter, we responded to a call reporting. Did you verify the report? She cut in. Silence. Turner shifted. Hale's jaw ticked. Neither spoke. Evelyn took a step forward. Her presence was ice, sharp, suffocating. You stormed into a school, she continued, laid hands on a minor, never checked video footage, never asked a single witness, never confirmed details, and you call that policing? Hale stammered. We were acting on urgent information. False urgent information, Evelyn corrected, and you never once questioned why the caller kept emphasizing her race. Turner raised his chin defensively. It was, a judgment call, based on the situation described. A judgment call rooted in what? Evelyn asked calmly. Protocol or prejudice? The room clenched tighter. No one breathed. Walsh tried to step in. Judge Carter, might I suggest we sit down? Principal Walsh, she commanded. He obeyed instantly. She turned back to the officers, eyes narrowing. Mr. Hale, Mr. Turner, have you forgotten your disciplinary history? Their faces drained. Evelyn reached into her briefcase and pulled out a stack of printed documents, thin but deadly. She tossed them onto the table, and pages slid across the polished wood like knives. These are formal complaints filed against the two of you in the past 5 years, she said. All involving racial profiling, all involving minors, all conveniently dismissed due to insufficient documentation. Hale swallowed hard. Turner looked like he might faint. The Board of Education members glanced at each other, horrified. Evelyn held their gaze. I know, because I requested these files myself long before today. Drama thickened like tar. Hale scrambled for an excuse. Those were misunderstandings, context missing. No, Evelyn snapped. What is missing is accountability. She leaned closer, her voice dropping into a quiet, lethal whisper. You didn't just rely on bias. You indulged in it. Turner's voice cracked. This isn't fair. We were just doing our jobs. Your job is to protect children. She cut in sharply. Not to terrorize them based on a teenager's lie, and certainly not based on her skin color. The air froze. Then Evelyn delivered the killing blow. She stepped right in front of Officer Hale. You seem familiar, Officer Hale. Do you remember the case 3 years ago involving a wrongful traffic stop on a black teenager? Hale's lips parted. His pupils shrank. His breath hitched. He remembered. Everyone did. It was a local scandal, briefly. A case where an officer escalated a routine stop into a violent arrest of a boy with no criminal record. Evelyn held his gaze. I was the judge on that case, she said quietly. A ripple moved through the room. And you were issued a formal reprimand. A mild one, because the department begged the court to go easy on you. You promised to undergo sensitivity training. You promised to change. And now, her voice sharpened, you've laid hands on my daughter. Hale's knees seemed to falter. Turner took a step back. It wasn't just career-threatening. It was life-altering. You picked the wrong child, Evelyn said. The wrong mother, and most importantly, the wrong history to repeat. Officer Hale had already been disciplined by Evelyn years ago for the same misconduct. He had no idea the teen he roughed up today was her child. The Board of Education members exchanged horrified looks. Evelyn straightened her posture and addressed the room. When police abuse their authority, they do not deserve badges. And when schools enable that harm, they do not deserve the trust of parents. No one dared argue. Her final words struck like lightning. You chose the wrong life to play with. They chose the wrong child, the wrong mother, the wrong fate to gamble with. Ina quoted, and the storm intensified further as a higher authority walked through the door. The hallway outside the emergency meeting room was a long stretch of beige tile and buzzing fluorescent lights, but now it felt like a courtroom aisle, silent, suffocating, and waiting for judgment to fall. Naomi stood near her mother, still trembling from the arrest, from the humiliation, from the weight of dozens of eyes that had watched her be treated like a criminal. Evelyn placed a firm, steady hand on Naomi's shoulder, grounding her like an anchor in a storm. Then the storm arrived. A tall man in a dark navy uniform strode down the hallway with swift, decisive steps. The silver badge on his chest caught the light. The room seemed to tilt around him. His presence was unmistakable. Chief Supervisor Owens. His expression was carved from stone hard, unreadable. Dangerous. Hale and Turner stiffened the moment they saw him. Their faces drained of color, and Hale instinctively straightened his belt as if discipline could hide guilt. Owens didn't greet anyone, didn't shake hands, didn't smile. He walked straight to Evelyn. "Judge Carter, your message said this was urgent." Evelyn nodded once. "It is." Owens turned to the small crowd gathering near the door. "I want everyone relevant inside. Now." Students scattered. Administrators scrambled. Owens stepped into the room with an air that demanded silence. "Play the footage," he ordered. The recording played the full, unedited truth. Brandon planting the wallet. The boys rehearsing lines. The fake 911 call, drenched in racial manipulation. The laughter. The lies. The setup. Not a single person in the room breathed. Owen's expression grew darker with every passing second. By the time the recording ended, the line of his jaw was twitching with rage. He turned slowly first to Hale, then to Turner. "You two," he said quietly. "What do you have to say for yourselves?" Hale tried, but his voice cracked. "Sir, we were acting on a—" Owens raised a single hand, and the words died on Hale's tongue. "You acted on nothing," Owens said. His voice remained calm, but the anger beneath it was volcanic. "No verification. No due process. You stormed a school based on racialized language in a teenager's prank call." He stepped closer. "You placed a minor, an innocent minor, in handcuffs. Without evidence, without protocol, without activating your body cams." Turner swallowed hard. "Sir, we didn't think that," Owens barked, "is the entire problem." Naomi flinched slightly at the volume, and Evelyn's hand gently squeezed her shoulder in reassurance. "It's all right," she whispered. "Just watch." Owens took a deep breath, but his fury only sharpened. "You didn't just fail protocol," he continued. "You violated it. You didn't just misjudge, you racially profiled. And you didn't just embarrass this department, you opened it up to federal review." Hale's knees buckled slightly. Turner pressed his lips together, afraid to speak. Owen's next words punched through the hallway like a hammer. "This is a criminal offense." Gasps burst from the administrators. Students covered their mouths. Even Principal Walsh nearly stumbled back. Brandon, standing near the doorway, tried to slip behind the crowd quietly, slowly, hoping no one would notice. Owen's eyes snapped toward him like a hawk. "You stop right there." Brandon froze, mid-step, heart pounding. "Security," Owen said without looking away. "Hold him." Two security guards stepped forward, grabbing Brandon by the arms before he could blink. He yelped, "Hey, I didn't do anything." Owens turned his full attention to him. "You made a fraudulent emergency call. You triggered a police response with intentional lies. You directly caused the wrongful detainment of a minor. And you weaponized racial descriptions to do it." Brandon's voice shook. "It was just a joke." "No," Owen snapped. "A joke is slipping a fake spider in someone's bag. What you did is a felony." Silence swallowed the hallway. Every student watching realized they were witnessing the collapse of a social tyrant. But Owens still wasn't finished. He pulled out his phone, checking a notification that had just arrived. His eyebrows rose. "Well," he said slowly, "it seems this situation is already out of our hands." Evelyn tilted her head. "What do you mean?" Owens turned the screen toward her. A breaking news headline flashed across it. "Police wrongfully detain black student at Willow Ridge High, video goes viral." Source: a citywide news outlet. Naomi gasped. Walsh stumbled backward. Turner's face went ghost white. Owens sighed. "And according to the email I just received, this video was sent to the press from an anonymous source. Someone unknown, unseen, had already leaked the full recording to the media. The truth wasn't confined to the school anymore. It was exploding across the entire city." Owens pocketed his phone, voice grim. "When the public gets involved," he said, "no one walks away clean. Once the internet takes hold, no one escapes." Unquote. And that was when the real hell began for Brandon and every bully who stood beside him. By late afternoon, Willow Ridge High no longer looked like a school, it looked like a siege zone. News vans lined the street in crooked rows. Reporters rushed across the pavement, with microphones raised like weapons. Camera operators scrambled to capture every angle. Bright lights flickered. Tripods blocked sidewalks. Students leaned against fences. Phones held high, narrating the chaos to thousands of viewers on social media. The viral video of Naomi's wrongful arrest had ignited the city like gasoline on open flame. A local reporter announced live, "We're here at Willow Ridge High, where a black honor student was forcibly detained without cause." Outrage grows as more evidence surfaces. Another reporter chimed in. Sources confirm the police acted on a falsified 911 call from a fellow student. Crowds swelled by the minute parents, community members, activists. Some held signs, others shouted demands. Naomi stood near the school steps, surrounded by noise that felt too loud, too sharp, too crushing. Her hands shook, but her mother's arm wrapped firmly around her shoulders. "Stay with me," Evelyn murmured, and Naomi did. Students flooded toward Brandon the moment he stepped outside, forming a tight circle around him. Cameras shoved forward like hungry mouths. "Why did you lie? Do you realize what you did to her? You could have gotten her killed." Brandon tried to push past them, but reporters boxed him in. A microphone jabbed toward his face. "Brandon, did you intentionally file a false police report?" Another reporter shouted, "Why did you target Naomi specifically? Was it racially motivated?" Brandon panicked. "Get that out of my face. I didn't do anything wrong. This is all blown out of—" "Answer the question," someone yelled. Students filmed his meltdown from every angle. Someone's live stream hit over 80,000 viewers within minutes. Brandon snapped, shoving a reporter's microphone away so hard it clattered onto the pavement. "Back off!" I said, "back off!" Gasps erupted. "Did you just assault a reporter?" "Oh, he's done. Get this on camera. Record everything." Drama exploded like fireworks. Naomi watched from a distance, shaky but composed. She didn't revel in his downfall, she simply observed the consequences chasing him like wolves. Evelyn's eyes, however, were cold steel. A teacher pushed through the crowd, red-faced and shaking. I can't keep this quiet anymore," she told the reporters. "Brandon has a history, a violent one." Cameras pivoted instantly. "What kind of history? Are there previous incidents? Was it reported?" The teacher hesitated, then confessed. He assaulted a student last year, broke the boy's nose. The school buried it to protect his parents' reputation. The crowd erupted into chaos. Parents shouted. Students gasped. Reporters lunged forward with renewed ferocity. Brandon didn't just hurt Naomi, he'd hurt others, protected only by family influence and administrative cowardice. A reporter turned toward Evelyn. "Judge Carter, do you have a statement?" Evelyn stepped forward, not for show, not for spectacle, but for justice. "My daughter will not be another child silenced by privilege," she said. "Not today. Not ever." Her voice sliced through the noise. Naomi felt pride swell in her chest. Rotten secrets always claw their way to the surface when the light finally hits them. Unquote. And Evelyn Carter had no intention of letting this end with exposure. She was about to escalate it further. The City Education Board headquarters was normally a quiet place, cold hallways, polished floors, and rooms filled with paperwork instead of people. But today, chaos had followed Willow Ridge High straight into the heart of the city. The board chamber overflowed. Parents packed the back rows. Reporters lined the walls. Teachers whispered urgently among themselves. Students held signs demanding justice. Judge Evelyn Carter entered with Naomi by her side, a protective hand resting gently on her daughter's back. Every conversation stopped. Every head turned. Evelyn wasn't just a mother anymore, she was the woman who had exposed a system's rot in a single afternoon. At the front of the room sat the 7-member Education Board, stone-faced and shaken by the explosion of public outrage. Principal Walsh stood off to the side, sweating through his shirt, clutching papers he couldn't seem to read. Brandon sat alone at a small table, shoulders curled inward, eyes darting like a trapped animal. His parents had not shown up. His friends had abandoned him. His confidence had evaporated. The board chairwoman cleared her throat. This emergency hearing has been convened to address allegations of misconduct, negligence, and discriminatory practices at Willow Ridge High School. Evelyn stepped forward. "Allow me," she said. Her voice filled the room with the authority of a courtroom, not a school chamber. She laid out every piece of evidence clearly, concisely, devastatingly. The edited video Brandon used to frame Naomi, the unedited footage exposing the setup, the racist 911 call, the officer's wrongful arrest, the school's failure to follow safety protocols, the buried reports of Brandon's prior violence. With each item, gasps rippled through the audience. With each exhibit, Walsh's face grew redder, then paler. When Evelyn finished, she stood tall, hands clasped behind her back. "This board has a duty," she said, "not just to punish wrongdoing, but to protect the children in its care. My daughter's rights were violated, your policies were ignored, and your silence nearly cost her safety, perhaps even her life." Whispers swelled. Parents nodded fiercely. The board turned to Brandon. "Do you have a statement?" the chairwoman asked. His mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. I didn't mean. It was a misunderstanding. I just thought." "Thought what?" Someone yelled from the back. "That she deserved it? That you'd get away with it again?" Brandon shrank into his chair, face burning. Principal Walsh was called next. He stepped forward, shaking, glasses slipping down his nose. I take responsibility for my inadequate handling of the situation," he said. "I should have investigated properly. I should have protected Naomi. I failed." His voice broke. Parents glared. Some demanded his resignation on the spot. Drama surged as the board chairwoman raised her hand for silence. "We will now vote," she said. The room stilled. No breathing, no whispers, just tension thick enough to choke on. One by one, the 7 board members raised their hands, motioned to expel Brandon Cole permanently from the district for violent misconduct, discriminatory harassment, falsifying emergency reports, and endangering a minor. Hands rose. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Every eye shifted to the final board member. He exhaled. 7. Unanimous. Brandon's world collapsed visibly. One vote was all it took to rewrite the Bullies' fate. And as justice finally landed on her side, Naomi, after everything, began to reclaim the respect she had been denied. The press room inside City Hall was overflowing long before the event even began. Rows of chairs were packed with reporters, community leaders, parents, students, civil rights advocates, and television crews. Camera lenses glimmered beneath the ceiling lights, like a constellation waiting for its moment to shine. A long table stood at the front of the room, with microphones lined up neatly along the edge. Behind it, a banner read, "Press Conference, Restoring Justice for Naomi Carter." When Evelyn and Naomi entered the room, every conversation died instantly. Dozens of cameras clicked in unison. Naomi felt the weight of all those eyes, but for the first time in days, they didn't burn with judgment. They carried hope, outrage on her behalf, and fierce support. Evelyn guided Naomi to the center seat, her hand steady on her daughter's back. The mayor, the police chief, and the superintendent of schools sat to their right, each looking somber, each acutely aware they were here because they had failed a child. The press conference began with the mayor stepping up to the podium. "Today," he said, "we address a grave injustice committed against a young black student, an injustice that no child should ever endure. Naomi Carter was wrongfully detained based on a fabricated report and racial bias. We are here to correct that wrongdoing publicly." Flash after flash lit the room. Naomi kept her hands folded in her lap, breath trembling but eyes steady. She had lived through humiliation, now she got to live through truth. Next came the superintendent, voice shaking with remorse. "To Naomi and her family, we offer our deepest apologies. Willow Ridge High failed you. The system failed you. But we promise accountability and reform. Parents in the crowd nodded, some wiping tears. Then Evelyn stood. Her presence shifted the room instantly. Her voice steady, sharp, unwavering, cut through the camera's clicking. "No child," she said, "should ever be criminalized for the color of their skin." Reporters leaned forward. "No child," she continued, "should be accused, manhandled, or humiliated without evidence. Naomi is not just my daughter. She is every black child who has been judged before being heard." Naomi felt tears sting her eyes, not from pain this time, but from power. Evelyn's gaze swept the room like a lighthouse beam. "I stand here today not just as a mother, but as a judge. And let me make this absolutely clear. There will be consequences for those who abused their authority." The room thundered with applause. When Naomi was finally invited to speak, she stood slowly. Her voice quivered at first, but steadied with every word. "I thank everyone who stood up for me. Thank you for seeing me." A hush fell. Her eyes glistened. "I was scared, I was hurt, but I'm still here, and I won't let what happened to me happen to someone else." The applause this time was deafening. Some students in the audience began to cry, guilt, relief, solidarity, all swirling together. A few of them had watched everything happen in the hallway and said nothing. Their cheeks were wet now. Then the final announcement came. A representative from the National Coalition Against Racial Bias stepped to the microphone. "We have watched Naomi's courage. We have watched how she held herself with dignity under injustice. Today, the coalition is awarding her a full academic scholarship to the university of her choice." The room erupted. Cameras flashed wildly. Reporters gasped. Naomi covered her mouth, stunned. Her suffering, her humiliation had forged a future brighter than anyone expected. Evelyn pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. The representative smiled warmly. "You turned pain into purpose, Naomi, and that deserves more than an apology. It deserves a future. The pain of today becomes the strength of tomorrow." But justice was not finished. Those who caused the harm still had consequences to face. The internal affairs chamber inside the city police department felt more like a courtroom than a meeting room. The fluorescent lights were harsh, the walls bare, and the air thick enough to choke on. A long metal table separated the accused from those who would decide their fate. Officer Hale and Officer Turner sat side by side, though they looked nothing like the confident enforcers who had marched into Willow Ridge High just days earlier. Now, their uniforms hung stiff on slumped shoulders, their badges placed on the table like evidence. Across from them sat the disciplinary committee, stoic, silent, and grim. And at the center of the room, leaning against the wall with arms crossed, stood Chief Supervisor Owens. He didn't sit. He didn't soften. He didn't blink. The chair of the committee opened the session. "We are here to review the conduct of Officers Hale and Turner in the wrongful detainment of minor Naomi Carter." The words echoed like a hammer striking metal. Footage was shown. Reports were read. Complaints were listed. And then, it was Owen's turn. He stepped to the table and placed a thick folder down with a heavy thud. "This," he said, "is the full report of violations committed by these officers." His tone sharpened. Failure to verify evidence, failure to activate body cams, use of excessive force on a minor, acting on racially biased assumptions, and participating in the escalation of a false emergency. Each charge landed like a blow. Hale wiped sweat from his temples. Turner's hands shook beneath the table. Owens continued, "I'm recommending formal prosecution for abuse of authority, racial profiling, and unlawful detainment." Gasps rose around the room. Hale's breath faltered. Turner's lips parted in disbelief. "Prosecution," Hale whispered. "Sir, please." Owens didn't look at him. "This department will not shield misconduct, and I will not allow officers like you to endanger children." Panic rippled through the two men. Hale leaned forward, voice desperate. "Judge Carter, please, if you could speak on our behalf, if you could help reduce." Evelyn Carter had been sitting quietly near the back of the room, invited as both witness and affected parent. She rose slowly. Her heels clicked once, twice, and then she stood directly across from the officers who had slammed her daughter into a school locker. Her voice was steady, cold, and final. No. Hale's face crumpled. Turner swallowed hard. Evelyn continued, her eyes like steel. You didn't hesitate when you put your hands on my child. You didn't hesitate when you acted on prejudice, and I will not hesitate now. She turned to the committee. These men endangered a minor. They must face full accountability. There was no anger in her tone, no shouting, no vengeance, just truth. And truth was enough. The committee whispered among themselves for several tense minutes. Finally, the chair stood. Officer Turner, she said, effective immediately, you are suspended without pay and placed under indefinite review pending criminal investigation. Turner sagged in his seat, face hollow. And Officer Hale stiffened. You are hereby terminated from the force. Silence. The final kind. Heavy and irreversible. Hale didn't wait for ceremony. He ripped off his badge, slammed it onto the table, and stormed out of the room, quitting before the department could fire him completely. Turner remained frozen, staring ahead, realizing his career was over in all but name. Owens closed the file and exhaled once. Justice, he said, doesn't skip uniforms. He nodded to Evelyn, and she nodded back, calm, satisfied, resolute. Justice spares no one, not even the ones who wear the badge. That stated, now that the officers had fallen, only one question remained. What would become of Brandon? The Student Disciplinary Board office had never been this crowded. The room normally used for quiet meetings about tardiness or academic dishonesty was now the stage for one of the most consequential hearings in the school's history. Brandon sat alone at the center table, arms crossed tightly, leg bouncing uncontrollably. His parents flanked him, his father rigid with anger, his mother trembling with embarrassment. Neither looked at their son. Neither could defend what the entire city had already seen. Across the room sat the disciplinary board members, stern and silent. The air felt heavy enough to crush lungs. Naomi and Evelyn entered together. Conversations faded instantly. Naomi stayed close to her mother, but her posture was more upright than before, stronger, calmer, as if surviving so much had carved something unbreakable inside her. The board chair cleared her throat. We are here to address the case of student Brandon Cole, who is accused of fabricating evidence, making a false emergency call, endangering the life of a fellow student, and participating in racially motivated harassment. She turned to the IT specialist. Begin playback. The room dimmed as the projection screen lit up. Every moment, every lie, every cruel laugh, every staged angle played out in brutal detail. Brandon slipping the wallet into Naomi's locker, his group rehearsing their story, the fake panic in his voice during the 911 call, the racist descriptors, his celebration afterward. Then the worst of it, I want that black girl gone. I don't care how we'll make them believe she's dangerous. The words echoed like poison. Parents, in the back, gasped. One mother covered her mouth, shaking her head. A father muttered, disgusting. Brandon's mother burst into quiet tears. His father's fists clenched tightly, knuckles white. When the video ended, the room simmered with rage. The board chair turned to Brandon. Do you have anything to say in your defense? Brandon swallowed hard. I wasn't trying to hurt her. It was just a joke. I didn't think. A joke? A parent snapped from the back. You called the police on her. She could have died. Another parent stood, voice trembling with fury. My son goes to that school. What if next time it's my child? What if you pick another target? The room erupted in angry murmurs. Brandon shrank lower in his chair, eyes darting helplessly. His mother reached out, pleading toward Evelyn. Please, Judge Carter, he's just a boy. He made a mistake. Can't you show mercy? All eyes turned to Evelyn. She remained still, calm, controlled. But before she could speak, Naomi stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but somehow carried through every corner of the room. If I stay silent, she said, someone else like me will get destroyed next time. Silence slammed into the room. Complete, final. Even Brandon looked up at her, stunned. Naomi continued, I'm not doing this because I hate him. I'm doing this because he didn't care who he hurt, and people like that don't stop until someone makes them stop." The board chair nodded slowly. "Thank you, Naomi." She turned to her colleagues. "We will vote now." Hands rose quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, all 7. The verdict was unanimous. "Brandon Cole," the chair announced, "effective immediately, you are expelled from Willow Ridge High School and barred from attending any district school. You will also be placed in a juvenile behavioral monitoring program for the remainder of the academic year." Brandon's face collapsed. His father cursed under his breath. His mother sobbed. Naomi stood still, heart steady. Justice didn't feel like revenge. It felt like release. The courage of the victim becomes the final sentence for the bully. Only one final chapter remained to conclude this journey toward justice. The next morning, Willow Ridge High felt different. Not lighter because what happened could never be erased, but clearer, more awake. As if the building itself had learned something overnight, the sun spilled across the courtyard, warm and gentle. Students gathered in small clusters, whispering not with gossip this time, but with relief, with guilt, with admiration. Then Naomi Carter stepped through the school gates. Her backpack hung over one shoulder. Her curls framed her face. Her steps were steady, controlled, confident, but not arrogant. She didn't need arrogance. She had survived something most students couldn't even imagine. Heads turned instantly, but not with suspicion, not with judgment, with respect. A girl from chemistry class approached her first. "Naomi, I'm so sorry I didn't say anything that day." A boy she barely knew stepped forward next. "Thank you for standing up for yourself, and for the rest of us." Then another, and another. Students who had once watched her suffer in silence now offered apologies, kindness, and gratitude. Naomi nodded gently, accepting each word without bitterness. "I'm okay," she said softly. "Just don't stay silent next time. Not for anyone." Her voice didn't tremble. It resonated. Across the courtyard, Evelyn Carter stood beside her SUV, arms folded, watching her daughter move through the crowd with a strength that shook her to her core. Naomi didn't realize it, but she had become bigger than what happened to her. She had become a symbol, a reminder, a catalyst. Evelyn exhaled slowly, pride threading through every breath. She whispered to herself, "She's going to be unstoppable." As Naomi headed toward the entrance, Principal Walsh approached, humble, shaken, changed. "Naomi, we're implementing new policies starting today," he said. "Mandatory anti-discrimination workshops, bias training for staff, anonymous reporting channels. And," he swallowed nervously, "we'd like you to help lead our new Student Justice Council. You would be the face of the initiative." Naomi blinked, surprised. "Me?" Walsh nodded. "Yes. After everything you've gone through, no one is more qualified to teach us what we should have known all along." Naomi glanced around the courtyard at the faces that once doubted her, at the hallways that once felt like cages, at the school that had failed her and now wanted to learn from her. And she said, with quiet strength, "I'll do it." Drama shifted to triumph. Flyers went up across campus. Announcements echoed through the halls. The school launched its first-ever anti-racism and equity program, with Naomi as the student representative. She stood on stage during the morning assembly, addressing the entire school. "Justice isn't something we wait for," she said. "It's something we build, together." The room erupted in applause. Evelyn watched from the back row, tears glistening but unshed. She had fought battles in courtrooms, but this seeing her daughter reclaim her voice, her power felt like the greatest victory of her life. After the assembly, Naomi walked outside toward her mother. The sunlight caught her face just right, warm, golden, alive. Evelyn opened her arms, and Naomi stepped into them. "You okay, baby?" Evelyn whispered. Naomi pulled back and smiled. Not a small smile, not a hesitant one, a radiant one. "I'm stronger than they ever thought, Mom." And she was right. She had been forged in fire and she didn't burn. She rose. When justice is finally illuminated, no one can extinguish its light. And just like that, the entire script flipped. The same people who tried to destroy an innocent black girl were the ones standing in the ruins of their own lies. Her mother didn't raise her voice, she raised the consequences. And sometimes, justice doesn't arrive quietly. It arrives wearing a judge's robe and taking names. But now I want to hear from you. What part of this story shocked you the most, and what would you have done if you were there? If this story hit you the way it hit me, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to support more powerful stories like this.